Let's speak with Professor Eugene Kontorovich. He's the director of the International Law Department at the Kohelet Policy Forum, professor of Constitution and International Law at the George Mason University. He speaks to us from Jerusalem. And Professor Kontorovich, thank you for joining us. First of all, how serious is this? Suddenly, IDF officers traveling abroad, and we're talking about reservists too, people may face prosecution, arrest in foreign countries in Europe without even having any prior knowledge of it?
Yeah, it's a problem, and it shows how the international reaction to the war tilts the scales in favor of Hamas. We don't read about Hamas terrorists. We don't read about Gazans being afraid of being arrested when they travel abroad. And this is part of the problem of lawfare against a liberal democracy. When Israeli soldiers serve in the reserves, they're not making huge money off of smuggling, off of extortion of humanitarian supplies like Hamas does. The private benefits to them are not just small, they're negative. They're doing it for the good of their country, unlike Hamas. And now they bear this additional cost. And clearly the point is to deter Israeli reservists from fighting in the military and from doing their duty.
Right. Now, so the Foreign Ministry has issued these warnings. The IDF, by the way, also cautioning soldiers, do not take videos of yourself while you're serving in, for example, in Gaza, because you can be identified for that. But what more should the government, the Foreign Ministry, maybe the Justice Ministry, should be doing to deal with this issue?
I think it needs to make clear to any country that would contemplate serving such warrants that there would be extremely severe consequences, and that this would be seen as a truly hostile act. Right? This would be an act against Israeli soldiers for their military service, an act of war almost. Additionally, groups that are providing information to instigate such arrest warrants are harming Israeli national security, and certainly measures should be. You were just speaking about a gentleman who's being charged for leaking false information, for leaking true information to a German newspaper, charged with harming national security. Certainly leaking false allegations to foreign governments to prosecute Israeli soldiers should be considered a harm to national security and a criminal offense.
Right. And now we should say, I mean, basically every Israeli citizen, and to some degree, has served in the army. We don't expect that every single Israeli who's going abroad will face it. Who should be careful, you think, in this regard? Who should take extra caution?
It's impossible to know. I mean, there's no reason to believe these are based on actual information of criminality. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone who they can find through social media served in Gaza might be the subject of such warrants, because the point here is not to get anyone convicted, right? It's not likely that anyone would be convicted, because it's not likely that these groups have evidence of crimes that were committed that the IDF is not itself investigating. Rather, the point is to scare, deter, and harass Israeli soldiers. The process is the punishment.
Right. All right. Well, certainly, though, this is something that people do have to take into account, certainly those Israelis who have served.
We can expect the Trump administration to take very firm measures, I think, against this kind of lawfare.
Right. As they already have stated, certainly in the U.S. Congress, when it comes certainly to the arrest warrants that were issued against Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Professor Eugene Kontorovich, thank you for joining us on I-24 News.
My pleasure.